Howdy everybody. In this video, I wanted to take a break from all the fiddle tunes and just talk about the concept of chords. Now, if you already, this is going to be a introductory concept of chords. If you already feel comfortable with what chords are and how they change and how it changes the melodies and all, just a general overview of chords, feel free to skip this video. But I'm going to include this just because there are a lot of things that that I had to learn along the way. I was asked if I was tone deaf a couple of times, so I just want to make sure that no matter what your level is, or how your ear is working at this point, that you have all the tools you need to get to the next level and the next level and the next level. And so I just wanted to talk about what chords are, how they change, and to do that, I'm going to use my old guitar here. And so, chords are combinations of notes. That's it. Okay? We already talked about, and that's why I wanted to really emphasize this idea of numbers and the numbers of notes in the scale. So, which number of note you put together, which numbers you put together, defines the chord. No matter what key you're in, if you pick out particular numbers, then you're going to be making a certain chord. So, at this point, I'm just going to show the example of major chords, because we've been playing out of D major, A major, and G major. All right? So, the basic concept is that each of these chords are made up of the first, the third, and the fifth note in the major scale. And it's really that simple. Now, if you've been looking at music, or if you've heard anyone talk about music, you'll hear talks of you'll hear of all sorts of chords. Suspended chords, seventh chords, sixth chords, something over something else, something inverted, 13ths, 11ths. The bottom line is that all of those numbers just come from the scale. In the same way that you count up, say, the 1, 3, and 5 to make a major chord, you just add in other numbers of notes, other notes, according to the numbers in the scale, and you will create all those more complex chords that you hear about, as long as you, just depending on what scale you use. Okay? But to start building a foundation of what chords are, we're going to use this guitar. And I will just show you that a D major chord, what was the 1, 3, and 5 of a D major chord? Give you a second to think about it. You can pause it if you need more time. But it's going to be D is 1, 2 is E, the 3 is F sharp, the 4 is G, and the 5 is A. So that was 1, D, 3, F sharp, 5, A. Okay? Now watch this. Now this is a D chord. Good old D chord on my good old guitar here. And so, watch this. So you don't play, for you non-guitar players out there, you don't play this top string, or it sounds like this. Watch this. Yeah, doesn't that sound awful? This note, the physics of this note, and the wavelengths and the vibrations and things, hit our ear as not in great harmony with the others, right? And so we don't play this top one, this top E. But all the other notes, watch this. So this is an open A string, open D, right? A, D, D, F sharp, A. That combination was a D major, right? So we got A, D, A, D, F sharp. It makes that nice, pretty ringing D major sound. Now, let's not get too into the weeds of what we add to what. But just listen to the difference, right? If I add in a different note, it's going to sound a little different, right? Watch this. So here's just a regular old D major. You know, builds a little tension. Just let off and go back to the, that was just a G. Instead of the F sharp, I just put down my finger there to play a G. Just let that back off. And it comes back home to this nice full D chord. That, the campfire sort of. Oh, my Lord, kumbaya. That sort of thing, right? Okay. G. Is G going to be any different according to that rule? If I'm saying a G major? No. The answer is always no. It's not going to be any different. It's going to use the same numbers of its scale. 1, 3, and 5. And G, that was G, A. G is 1. 2 is A. 3, B. 4 is C. 5, D. So we're talking about G, B, and D. Let's go to our guitar. Top note here I'm playing. G, B, D, G, B, G. Did you hear anything except G, B, and D? No, you didn't. That combination is that classic, good old-fashioned, stand in your land, stand in my land, and do the, and then the other one that we've learned so far is A. A major. What's that going to be? 1, 3, and 5 again. A, 1, B is 2, skip. 3 is C sharp, 4 is D, 5 is E. So we're going to have A is 1, 3 was C sharp, 5 E. Here we go. This is going to be an A chord. A, E, A, C sharp, E. Now, and you don't have to make this particular chord. One of the famous things that bluegrass guitar players do is something like this, right? They make a chord like this. It doesn't matter, but this isn't a guitar class, but this happens. So what are these notes? Well, it's an A major chord, so that it's what's going to make it up. It's going to be an A, C sharp, and an E. There might be a different combination of those, and one might come first, but it's going to be an A, C sharp, and an E if it is truly a good old-fashioned A major chord. Okay? So here we got A, E, A, C sharp, and A again. So it sounds like. You can do that. you could come up here. Hear that? You hear it, how it's the same? That's an A chord. That's an A chord. Guess what the A major chord, let's say. Guess what combination that is? I got this bar thing going on. Right, I'm all the way up here, but it's an A major chord. You know what notes are making that up? A, C sharp, and E. Okay? So those are chords. Now, I'll take a moment here just to introduce a concept. If it's confusing, just skip over. But it's super, super useful. Pretty much the only, one of the most common non-just pure major chords where it sounds a little different that you'll come across is what we call a dominant 7. Now don't be, it's very, very simple. Very simple if you know your scales. And all that means, and it is that you're going to add one more note. Okay? You keep your good old-fashioned, let's say we're going to do it in the key of, D. Okay? D. Or, I'm sorry. With a D chord. We're going to create a D dominant 7. Okay? This is a good old-fashioned D chord. Do you hear that? Oh, my Lord. Kumbaya. Did I mention I didn't have perfect pitch? Anyway. Alright, so this is our good old-fashioned D. Now count with me, friends and neighbors. It's a 7th, okay? So which note in a D7 do you think you're going to add in? And then we got to tweak that just a bit, okay, to make it a dominant 7. And I'll show you why we're doing all this here in a second, okay? Let's just count up. Let's go find that 7th chord out of D. D. 2 is E. 3 is F sharp. 4 is G. 5 is A. 6 is B. 7 is C sharp. I don't know why those balloons came up, but we're pretty happy about this C sharp on this computer. Cool. Anyway, the 7th is a C. The 7 is a C sharp. And okay. Let's count up again. D is 1, E is 2, 3 is F sharp, 4 is G, 5 is A, 6 is B, 7 then would be C sharp. Okay? But if we play that, if we add in a C sharp, what's that sound like? This. You hear that? It's like that city girl just seemed to find out early. That little transition thing there, okay? That's what you call a major 7. Okay, when you actually use the same 7th that's in your chord, or that's in your scale. You add in a C sharp, that's the sound. And here's the C sharp in this note. So I'm catching all these. Now, we don't want a major 7 though. We want a dominant 7. And to make that happen, all you have to do is flatten your 7 by a half step. And that's it. Okay? So instead of C sharp, you're going to play you're going to just add a C. because the C is a half step below the C sharp. And so you're going to just add a C note to your good old familiar 1, 3, and 5 of your D major. Okay? And so that's going to turn good old D major into this. And that does not sound stable, does it? And so what you'll see, what you'll hear in music is that is used to push you on to a next chord. And it's also used kind of a lot in the middle of fiddle tunes. And so when you're playing what we call 5 chords. So now I want to talk about what it means to change chords. Okay? So each chord has its own home, where it feels like you're coming home, right? In D, your home is D, and you have a D, F sharp, and an A. That's your main notes. In G, you have G, B, and D are your main notes. In A major, you have A, C sharp, and E that are your main notes. The problem, and why you have to change chords, is that melodies make you. Because these melodies jump up into a note and hold there long enough that it makes your ear weirded out if you don't change to a different chord. And here's an example. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. There was just holding that D chord, right? But what were those notes if you go back to our lesson on You Are My Sunshine? All right. The first few notes, and I'll just show you on the guitar here, if you remember, was so D, E, F sharp, F sharp, E, F sharp, D, D. All right. So I said an E there, right? Now that's not in D, but that's what we call a passing tone or something. You didn't dwell on it so long that it started to make your ear feel weird. And so that you are my sunshine. So I didn't have to change chords right there. You are my sunshine. Right, and then we do it again. My only sunshine. So that F sharp, E, F sharp, D, D, right? I played an E, but didn't have to change chords there. But here we go. Oh, my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy. How's that feel? How your ears feeling? Yeah, happy. Now, what is that note? It's you make me G, happy. And I'm hanging on that, right? Happy. Are those in D? No, because that D, F sharp, and A, right? Not in D major. And I'm holding on that. Those melody notes are holding on non-D notes long enough to make the ear need some relief. Right? because of the physics and the wavelengths and the way our eardrums work and all that. So we do this. So which chord can we use? All right? We're going up to a G note. You make me. Here's a G, and here's a B. B. So what chord could we use for that? Well, how about a G? Because it has a G, B, and D in it. So I bet that'll sound fine. Here we go. You make me happy when skies are gray. What? Right? I moved back out of that G chord notes and started staying longer on a F sharp. So you make me G, B, B, A, G, F sharp, F sharp. So now I got to go back to some chord that has an F sharp in it to make it fit nicely. In this case, I can just go back to D, because D, F sharp, A, that's the 1, 3, and 5. And do it again. You make me happy when skies are gray. Repeat. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. And here's a different thing. Please don't take my sun, 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 sun. See how nice that felt when I stopped singing? Sunshine away. So there, the melody demanded our ears to change chords again. And that note was, please don't take D, E, F sharp, R, and it holds longer on that E. That's an E note. And it held long enough to where your ears started asking for some harmony to happen somewhere. Right? Because in the passing tone, where you were playing it, like in the intro, you can be in D here. You are my sunshine. That's an E note. You are my sunshine. But she goes by so quick that you don't feel that the world is ending. You are my sunshine. Now we can make it that way. You are my. Now in jazz or some kind of, you're needing some disharmony or something. That's fine. You can do that, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about just good old-fashioned, fiddle tunes and folk tunes and things like that. And so there, we've got to find something that has an E note in it. And what scale have we learned already? An A scale. And an A scale has A, C sharp, and E. So how about an A chord? Please don't take my sunshine. Oh. What's that root note we're coming home on, right? It feels like you're just coming home. Everything's at peace. Oh. And we're back to our D, because that's a D note. And so that's the basis of changing chords. You do it because the melody demands it, because it goes into notes that the chord you're currently playing doesn't have in it. And it can sound like really agonizing to the ears. This brings up an idea of why did we use those particular chords. You can use a lot of different chords. A lot of people use a lot of different chords, and that gets into lots of theory and stuff. But for when I was at this place, what I would like to have known and what would have helped me is this idea of chord numbers. Okay? And so I chose D specifically because since we've been talking about chords and we've learned You Are My Sunshine, there are so many songs that use either 2 or 3 chords, especially in fiddle tunes and bluegrass music and folk tunes. And what you'll hear is something called Nashville numbering system or something. It might sound complicated, but it is absolutely not once you've learned to count your scales. Okay? And the idea of numbering chords, it's the same thing as numbering notes. So my 1 chord is just going to be the key I'm in, the tonic, the root note, where I come home to. Right? If I'm in D, key of D, my first note is D. Okay? Then I just count up the scale. 1, 2, 3. So D, E is 2, 3 is F sharp, 4 is G. Right? That's what we went to here. We went to a G chord, and it sounded so nice, right? What's 5? A. 6 is B, 7 would be, C sharp. But the main thing to pick up right now is that the 1 is D, the 4 is G, the 5 is A, and that all of that is just based on the scale and where those notes fall on the scale. And then you say, okay, so my G note is the 4th note in the scale, so if that's my 4 chord. And then what you'll find excuse me, is that these chords have their place. And so the thing that you need to work on is, 1, listen to records, right? Listen to songs, listen to tunes. It's out of D, right? We talked about that one. That's Liberty. Well, it's going to go have a 1-4 pattern. What chords were used there? A D, a G, a D, and an A was thrown in there. And you'll find that this combination of a 1, 4, and 5, in some combination, for instance, Angeline the Baker just uses 1 and a 4. So that's D, 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 G. And if you go back to that tune and you play along there, that part where it goes to G will correspond to the place where the melody lands on a B note, because you got to change chords to that G, because your 1, 3, and 5 are G, B, and D, or else it's going to sound weird if you play that just against a D, and because that's just D, F, and A. And here's an example. Cool in some kinds of music, but not really in that old-time fiddle tuney tradition. You gotta change. And You're My Sunshine has this D, 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 which is a 1. Now it's 4, 4, 4, 4 is G. And so don't expect yourself to be able to just pick out every single chord and every single change. There's a lot of different chords out there, different ways that people put together and use them. The main thing is when you're listening to tunes, listening to recordings, first, start with just hearing a change. And if you can already do that, or once you get to that point, then start asking yourself, what chord do I think this is going to? Fiddle tunes are a great way to do that. A lot of them, especially these ones that we've learned so far, pretty much just use a 1, 4, and 5. And what would that be? In G, that's G is 1. Excuse me. G is 1. A, 2, 3B. 4 is C. So it's going to be a G, C, and 5 will be a D chord. Okay? That'll be what guitars play. Anybody playing along with you will be playing probably some combination of that for the tunes we've learned so far. D. D is 1. E, F sharp. 4 is G. 5 is A. Be playing those major chords. Out of A is 1. B, C sharp, D, and E. And so those chords are going to be A, D, and E. Some combination. Try to hear those. And then the only other thing I want to mention, and stop now if that's, you can feel free to shut it off now. But I just wanted to say one more thing because I talked about a dominant 7. And so what you'll find in a lot of songs is that when you go to that 5 chord, it's going to be playing a dominant 7, meaning that you're just going to be playing all your nice, friendly 1, 3, and 5s, but adding in a flattened 7th chord. And you hear this all the time. I'm going to give you an example now out of You Are My Sunshine, okay? Just real quick. Please don't take my sunshine away. That was with the A dominant 7. And remember, same exact thing. All it means is that I used A, C sharp, and an E for the A major. And then you count up to your 7 and flatten it a half step. So the only note that's added is A is 1, B is 2, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and then flatten that by a half step. And you have this sound. And you have this sound. And these notes are A, E, G, C sharp, E. Here's a regular A major, and here is that nice 7th. And you can do that if you're in the key of G, like we talked about. What's your 5 chord? G, A, B, C, D. And so you'll be using a D dominant 7, which will just add a C note into the D. Okay. So that's the take on chords as a introduction. I hope it's helpful and just serves as a starting place to start understanding how the melody and the fiddle works together with the other instruments as to make music together. Alrighty, thank you. Bye-bye.